Hello and welcome to my Emotions and Relationships class. Today's topic is to understand and resolve your emotions. I very much appreciate your attending. My name is Andrea and I'll be guiding you through today's class. So I'm curious, how did you hear about today's class and where are you tuning in from? So I'm always curious about this because I like to see how our community is growing throughout the world. So I appreciate your sharing. A little about me, I'm calling in from Maryland, which is on the eastern coast of the United States, and I'm a wife and mother of 4. Each day, my family and I, we live with 12 healthy habits to enjoy a better quality of life and also to support the success of all that God calls us to do. And because these habits have been so transformative to our lives, I share guidance on how to both implement and stick with each one of these habits so that we can all live truly thriving lives together. I'll share more about the other workbooks and classes and videos and support groups that I offer throughout the week. But for now, I want to go ahead and jump right into today's class. Our goal today is to discover ways to reflect on and resolve our emotions so we can have peace of mind. While we're together today, we'll address common habits that can cloud and distract from our emotional awareness. We'll consider some ways to address and to reflect on our emotions, and we'll plan ways to resolve our emotions in various scenarios. So let's start by taking a moment to address some common external habits that can cloud and distract from our emotional awareness. Things like screens, so that's cell phones, TVs, even movie theaters. Things like food, whether it be binge eating or binge drinking or eating an unhealthy snack that you wouldn't have otherwise eaten. Or you could even be externally distracted by other people via partying, interacting with kids, working extra hours, or even by the family dog. Or you can even be distracted by the family dog. So if we're not mindful, we can end up using these things to cloud and distract us from our emotional awareness. This might seem like a helpful idea, but screens and food and other people are unhelpful distractions because even though we might feel better in the moment, the conflict still remains. And done regularly, our conflicts tend to pile up and can become an even heavier weight to carry. The antidote to each of these is to ask yourself, what do you truly crave? It's not likely anything that you can find on a screen or binge eating or drinking. It's not something you'll find at a party. You'll probably find that you truly crave peace and a resolution. If so, then stop and feel your emotions. Figure out what's going on in there so that you can resolve it. All right, so now let's address some internal habits that could cloud or distract from our emotional awareness. Things like ruminating, which is basically replaying a negative event over and over in our minds and without resolving it. So this clouds and distracts our minds because we're so distracted by that event or by what happened that we don't take a second to see how we feel about it or how our emotions are. And if we can't really see how we're feeling about it, it's going to be very hard to see clearly how to create a solution. So ruminating is also unhelpful because it tends to increase our frustrations even more with time, the more and more we think about it. So the antidote to ruminating. If you're going to be thinking about it in your mind, you might as well take time to pray about it instead. So pray about those emotions that you're feeling and ask God for direction and for insight on how to resolve that. There's also faking a smile. So when we try to fake fine or we're trying to just get over it or we just want to move on, this can cloud and distract from our emotional awareness as well. Because when we're trying to run away from it, we're not going to be taking time to sit and think about what we're actually feeling. So this is unhelpful, but not just for ourselves. It actually blocks other people from receiving the visual cue that they've overstepped a boundary, such that they can have the opportunity to correct themselves. So the antidote to forcing a smile is to relax your face and feel the emotion. Try to remove the fake smile energy off your face and just feel your emotion. Take a second to let your face show what you're feeling and let your expression convey to the other person that this is an opportunity for them to self-correct. Then they're shutting down. So this is similar to feeling numb, and it can cloud and distract from our emotional awareness because it blanks out our minds in any active awareness of our emotions. And then how can we resolve it if we don't have any mental, alert awareness of how we're feeling? So it's also unhelpful because this is going to create a lot of tension between you and the other person or the other parties involved. if you're not speaking and you're not talking to anyone, that's going to create tension. So the antidote to shutting down is to, even if you don't feel like engaging with the other person, you can just take time to write. You can just speak to yourself and just write, I feel blank because blank. Or you can try to resolve it and think, I can resolve this by blank. And prayer also helps here too. So now that we've seen how we can be more aware of our emotions, let's consider ways to address and reflect on our emotions. So again, prayer. You can have a conversation with God about how you're feeling. And this helps because we have the help of God's Holy Spirit to help us address and reflect on our emotions with us. We actually naturally gravitate towards need-based prayers. And that triggers our awareness that we're feeling an emotion and that we are actually in need of a resolution. So this is an especially helpful place for ruminating because you can be very candid with God and you can gain insight and guidance from your conversation with Him. It also strengthens your relationship with God too when we come to Him and trust Him with what's on our hearts. There's journaling, so you can write about what you feel, and this helps us because even if your mind is all over the place, you can write your thoughts linearly in your journal and then reread them to get a clearer picture of what's on your heart. And if your mind is all over the place, you can just write a little, what I'm thinking in the center and just make a little web and just write different things and just bring it all together later once you've written everything out. So it also helps to take time and reflect back on your writings too in the future so that you can notice any patterns and remember the lessons that you already learned. So let's look at some ways to resolve our emotions in various scenarios. So it helps to think in iMessages. And I know sometimes we'll talk in iMessages, but even thinking in iMessages is helpful. So you could think, well, you should. So instead of thinking, well, you should or you shouldn't have, you could just try thinking in your heart things like I feel or I don't like. And then you can speak to yourself with kindness and with respect. So instead of thinking, oh, that was so stupid, you can try thinking something like, you know what, I'm still learning. So, and this is kind of like that self-talk thing you may have heard of before, just saying things in your mind that are kind and gentle, because you wouldn't speak to anybody else with such harshness. So speak to yourself with kindness and gentleness as well. So then you can also speak things that are actually true. So remove the lies and speak what's true. So instead of things like, this is a terrible day, or they're just a jerk, you can try changing that up. So instead of just thinking it's a terrible day, you can just think this is a rough moment. We had good times earlier today, and more good things are still to come later today. And instead of they're just a jerk, you can just speak what's true, that maybe they just struggle to manage their emotions too, just like the rest of us. Also keep in mind what you can and can't control. So instead of they need to, you could try I should or I could. This is huge because it helps us to not be a victim in the situation, even if there's things that you can't control, even if you can't control what the other person does, if they apologize, if they do better in the future. What you can control is yourself, so find things that you can do to make a resolution. It helps us to have control over our fate in how much of a resolution we're going to have, and so now we can create a resolution regardless of if anybody else wants to participate in that resolution. So you may have noticed earlier that I said my family and I, we live with 12 healthy habits in order to enjoy a better quality of life. So then emotions and relationships is just one of the 12. We embrace all these habits so we can have less bad habits to sabotage our efforts and more good habits to support our success as we aim to do all that Yahweh has called us to do. So for all these healthy habits, I offer guidance via videos and workbooks, classes, and support groups to help you to implement and stick with each habit. So if you could use more guidance with this or any of the 12 healthy habits, I'm here to guide you. You can find more details on my website, which is trulythrivinglives.org. All right, I'd love to know how you enjoyed today's class and what questions do you have for me. You can let me know in the comments below, or if you'd like, you can save your questions for a support group or coaching. Either way, I look forward to supporting you on your journey. All right, thanks again for attending, and I hope you have a blessed day.